From 1993 to 1997, American indie filmmaker Gregg Araki devoted himself to the highs and lows of 90s queer youth culture and created three cult classics, the Teenage Apocalypse Trilogy. Taking the state of 90s LA to the extreme, Araki painted an absurdist landscape of televangelism, violence, and everyday life at the end of the world, starting with 1993's Totally Fucked Up. Following a ragtag group of gay, lesbian, and bisexual teenagers, Totally Fucked Up is the most straightforward of the trilogy, tracking their antics and relationships as they try to keep it together. 18 and 19-year-olds with nothing left in the world but each other, going about their lives in a world that hates them. They get kicked out, they break up, their friends die, their boyfriends suck. They watch AIDS ravish their community, listen to preachers and papers say they deserve death, and then they go do drugs because there's nothing they can do. Even when they fight, all they have is each other. They keep each other close and try to carry on. It's just how life is. It's totally fucked up. The absurdity starts in the Doom generation. While Totally Fucked Up stayed painfully grounded in reality, the second installment in the Teenage Apocalypse trilogy goes full balls to the wall. The Doom generation follows the caustic, meth loving teen Amy Blue and her wide eyed boyfriend Jordan White. Outside of a punk club, they pick up a drifter, the sleazy, hypersexual Xavier X Red. When X accidentally beheads a gas station owner, the trio go on the run across the wasteland of LA. Full of sex, meth, gore, and chili dogs, the Doom generation turns every dial up to 10. Araki begins to develop his signature hyper-stylized production design, and he starts to sharpen his word salad dialogue for some undeniably 90s lines. Where Totally Fucked Up focused on the absurdity of day-to-day life, the Doom generation brings in true absurdism. The gas station owner keeps talking for hours after his beheading, and every freakazoid in LA thinks Amy's their ex-girlfriend. Through this all, X intrigues the naive Jordan as he begins to realize his attraction to men, and infuriates Amy by being just as sardonic and mean as her. Extreme violence seems to follow wherever the trio go, but they keep on running. The world's fucked, it's falling apart, what's new? Jordan's the only one who seems to care about anything, repeatedly asking Amy and X what they think their purpose is, only to be met with brush offs and sarcastic remarks. Amy and X are wrapped in shells of malaise and inauthenticity, and their stony surfaces only crack twice, both in the last 30 minutes. The first time, when Amy accidentally hits and kills a dog in the road, marks a stark tonal shift in the film. For the first time, this violence isn't funny. Amy and X are hurt, their guards slip. They didn't mean to hurt something so innocent. The masks don't stay down for long, but in that moment, something changes in the Doom generation, foreshadowing the grisly ending only minutes away. Because every road trip, no matter how bloody and absurd, must come to an end. And for the trio, this comes in the worst way possible. After finally having sex with each other, releasing the tension they've been building throughout the entire movie, they're blindsided by a group of neo-Nazis Amy had mocked at a record store. Mistaking her for one of their ex-girlfriends, what once was comedic becomes deathly serious as the Nazis rape Amy and fag bash X and Jordan. Amy and X are able to kill the skinheads and get away, but Jordan, in all his puppy-eyed innocence and wonder, is killed. The movie ends with Amy and X almost silently driving away, Amy as impenetrable as ever. But they know now. The world can hate you and you can hate it right back. But cynicism won't save you. You'll never be totally numb.
LA is like nowhere. Everybody who lives here is lost.
If Totally Fucked Up is intimate and vulnerable, and the Doom generation is irreverent and absurdist, Nowhere, the trilogy's third and final installation, is the best of both. Marrying together the first film's candid emotion and the second's overwrought absurdism, Nowhere is the rare film that wholly and clearly communicates a director's vision, whether you like that vision or not. We follow another disillusioned teenager, this time in the form of Dark Smith. Dark's life is just like any Iraqi teen: drugs, sex, shoegaze, and teen angst to boot. He's in an open relationship with his bisexual girlfriend Mel, but he clearly resents it. He loves Mel, but she's not looking for anything serious. And neither is he thinks. There's not much Dark knows about the world. Things get crazier by the day. Aliens zap Valley girls, and no one notices but him. The world just keeps turning, no matter how insane Dark feels. With Nowhere's absurdism, Araki fully realizes what he hinted at in the Doom Generation. The teenage apocalypse isn't some fictional universe. It's the same one you and I live in. The same one is totally fucked up. The absurdity, aliens only you can see, televangelists who cause young rape victims and grieving gay men to violently explode in an act of suicide, and the often nonchalant responses of the people around it, is an abstract representation of the day-to-day struggles that queer youth faced. Impossibly difficult situations that mounted one on top of the other while the rest of the cis-heterosexual world turned a blind eye. That creates a unique kind of loneliness, a certain queer nihilism, a brand of depression that can only be brought about and understood by the devastation of being queer in a world that actively rejects you for something you cannot change.
Never been so depressed, miserable, and lonely in my entire life. It's like I know there's got to be somebody out there somewhere. Just one person in this huge, horrible, unhappy universe who can hold me in their arms and tell me everything's going to be okay. And how long do I have to wait before that person shows up? I feel like I'm sinking deeper and deeper into quicksand, watching everyone around me die a slow, agonizing death. It's like we all know, way down in our souls, that our generation is going to witness the end of everything. You can see it in our eyes. It's in mine. Look, I'm doomed. I'm only 18 years old and I'm totally doomed.
The Teenage Apocalypse trilogy doesn't have happy endings. Araki's teens live in a cruel, callous world where destruction is a promise and life is not a right. And that world isn't that different from our own. Why, then, do they persist as cult classics? Why do so many queer people I know consider them comfort movies, when on the surface they're anything but? Personally, I find comfort in the Teenage Apocalypse trilogy because of how familiar it is. Again, that may seem strange at first. The Teenage Apocalypse trilogy is deeply rooted in its time and place in the 90s LA, and I was born in 2004 and have spent my entire life in Mississippi. But what I recognize are the emotions and experiences of Araki's queer youth. This isn't an isolated phenomenon. As recently as this year, an interviewer with Filmmaker magazine brought up the personal connection the films continue to have with queer youth. In response, Araki told the magazine, quote, "It's disturbing to me how relevant they are. I wish they were more outdated. Right-wing homophobia, the culture wars, and all the stuff that fuels those movies, it's almost worse today than ever. I've come of age in a time where all of life feels uncertain. Climate change feels like an ever-present threat. So does fascism as America barrels into late-stage capitalism. Queer hate crimes are on the rise as anti-queer and especially anti-trans propaganda and legislation fly through the government. It's hard not to feel nihilistic and alone. But in watching the Teenage Apocalypse trilogy, I'm able to recognize my own feelings in a way I've never seen before. To understand that not only am I not alone, my people were feeling this before I was born. I see myself not only in their pain, but in their joy, in their attitudes. There's so many scenes and totally fucked up of queer friends just being friends that I've experienced in my own life, bonding over mocking our oppressors and wondering how anyone could be like that. Heterosexuality is boring, even as a board game, one of the dykes says, and I'm not sure if she said it or I did. To have yourself reflected, the good and the bad, allows you to understand that amidst all that's going on, all the propaganda, you and what you feel and how you live, your joy, your pain, your struggles, they're not new. It isn't just you. We're all weathering the apocalypse together.